If you like my dad's videos, please subscribe to QA Insights channel.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining this Clubhouse meeting. So this is our 11th session. So from past almost 2 months, we've been discussing about various topics. And today we are going to discuss about JMeter productivity hacks. So how can you expedite the process of scripting, execution, result analysis, and some tips and tricks about JMeter. So we are going to discuss that. And this session is being recorded. So I'm using an app called Backstage. So this session will be posted in the YouTube by today end of day. So if you want to watch again, you can just go to my YouTube channel, QA Insights. So let us talk about JMeter. So JMeter, I think in next couple of weeks, we'll have a new version. JMeter 5.5 will be released pretty much soon. But in that release, I don't see any new features as such. There is no major UI change or major new features, but most of the things will be like bug fixes and some improvements. So you can just watch out for my blog, and also I will publish a video once the 5.5 is released. So I hope everyone is using 5.4.1. So that is the latest stable version. So my first tip will be, as you know, right, always we should use the latest version. No matter what, try to update your JMeter to the latest stable version, because it will have a lot of performance improvements, and it will have a lot of fixes and also new features. So these three reasons you have to follow whenever you go to any project. Just make sure you are using the latest version of JMeter, because I have seen people still using say 4.0 something. I have seen 2.13 also people are using even till date. So that is totally wrong actually. We have to use always the latest version. And I would like to know which Java version you are using. So any inputs I can get on that. So what version of Java you will use for JMeter? Anybody?
So mostly it's Java 8, Naveen. We used to
Okay,
use
Java
in
8.
our in team, yes.
Okay. Anybody from the audience? Let me admit a couple of folks. Please raise your hand. If you are new to Clubhouse, please raise your hand so that I can admit to the stage. Hi, Sudhakar.
Hi, Naveen.
Yeah, which version, Sudhakar, you will be using? Java version for JMeter?
11.
Java 11. Okay, cool.
Yes.
So in my I have worked for many clients, enterprise Fortune 100 clients. So most of them they use Java 8 only, because they don't upgrade to Java 11 anytime soon, because it's very stable in production. So in my client machines and all, I use Java 8, but in my local, my personal recordings and experiments, I use latest version of Java. I think Java 17 also is going to release pretty much soon. I think I use Java 15. I use OpenJDK flavor. So again, there are different flavors you can use. So I use OpenJDK, but it's up to you which flavor you want to use. You can use. So there are flavors
Yes.
from Microsoft.
So for me it's the same. For official purpose, wherever it is, we used to use Java 8, but in my personal laptop it's Java 11 itself.
Java, okay. So I prefer OpenJDK, but yeah, people will have their own personal preference. They can go for Oracle or Microsoft or Amazon or Azure. So there are a lot of flavors available. So whichever flavor of JDK you can use, you can just use it. So JMeter will work on any flavors. And once I download the zip file, usually what I do is I delete all the documents, help folder from the zip file. So that is my practice. I don't know how many of you follow that, because that will save some space in the machines. And also when you run some CI/CD pipeline, right, that particular machine will have only some limitations in terms of disk. So just to save that, I usually delete all the irrelevant stuff from the zip file. So I have one shell file. So it will download and then it will just delete that irrelevant files. So do you guys do that? Anybody delete the unwanted stuff from the zip folder?
No, as such.
Okay, probably you can start using that. Mainly the docs folder, we don't need that actually. And help
Right,
also we
right.
don't need. And then sample JMX files from the zip file also we don't need that. So that all takes space when you run in CI/CD, right? So we can
Mm-hmm.
delete that once you download the zip file. So that is
Okay,
another
so
tip.
so this might improve our JMeter performance. We are saying, right?
No, it will not improve JMeter performance. It will save some disk space.
Disk space. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, disk space. Because once you extract the zip file, right, it will be very heavy. I
True,
think it
true,
is
true,
more tthan 100 MB.
true.
So you will save some space in the remote machines. So I have one shell script. I mean, I don't know whether I can try it or not. I created for my client purpose. So it will automatically optimize that folder. It will it will customize the properties file. So we have different properties file, right? We have system properties, we have user.properties, we have report.properties. So there are so many properties file. I think 4 to 5 properties file. You can see it in the bin folder. So what I do is whatever properties I use for my project, I just create my custom properties and then I just put it in the that bin folder. So this also will save time to instead of manually going there and changing everything. So I will have one property file which will be used across my projects. So you can just group together everything into one and then you can just use that properties file. Again, this also will be very helpful for CI/CD purpose. So you can associate that property file in your command line. So there are, if you Google it, right, you can get the exact command to associate that property, which will be useful for the CI/CD automation. So this is another tip I can give you. And apart from this, the recording. So recording again, it's very critical phase, right? Whenever we start with any project, mainly if you are working in web application testing, then we have to start with recording. So recording again, there will be a lot of issues you will face. So one of the issues is again SSL certificate. So the SSL certificate, if you want to record something HTTPS, then you have to generate the certificate. So by default, JMeter will generate only for 7 days. I don't know how many of you seen that message. So it will valid for only for 7 days. So if you want to extend the duration, you need to change some of the properties in the jmeter.properties file. So usually I put some 365 days, which will generate the certificate for 1 year. And then I will install the certificate in my certificate store. So whenever you try to record something, if it is generating for 7 days, go to the properties file and edit that particular number of days to say 1 year or 2 years, so that you don't need to change every now and then. Let me admit a few folks here. Hi Vinod.
Hi, can you able to hear me?
Yes, Vinod, please go ahead.
Yeah, you told that certificate for 360. This is for our remote. So when we want to run load testing for 6 hours or 7 hours, for that time also we can use this certificate.
No, this certificate I'm talking about for HTTPS recording, not remote distribution.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to record google.com, right, which is HTTPS, correct?
Oh,
So if you want to
yeah.
record it properly, you should have the proper certificate installed in your local.
Okay.
Because JMeter acts as a proxy, right? When you start your recording, it will act as a proxy. So proxy needs a certificate to negotiate with the server.
Okay.
So we need to have the valid certificate installed. Otherwise, it cannot record.
Okay.
I mean, it can still record, but it will not capture the HTTPS traffic. It will capture only HTTP.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
The certificate, Naveen, the certificate we need to download from application, right? That SSL, whatever it is.
No, this is for recording. See, basically, JMeter acts as a proxy. Okay, when you start recording, right? So the proxy needs to negotiate properly with the server. So I'm not talking about your server application certificate.
Okay, okay.
So JMeter as a broker, right? So broker needs to negotiate with the server. So it needs a valid certificate to capture the traffic.
Okay.
So if you go to bin folder, you can see that jmeter.crt file.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We need to set it up for the yes.
Yes, Apache jmeter.crt. If you double click, right, it will ask you to install the certificate where you want to install. So you have to
Yes,
install
yes.
on the trusted store.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that will expire by default after 7 days. So you have to extend the duration. Okay. So many of us, I mean, it's a rookie mistake. Even I also sometimes do that because I just start and then it will not capture anything. Then again, I have to debug, okay, whether the certificate is expired or not. So it's a very common mistake we do. That is why I always go with 1 year or 2 years of validation.
Naveen, just one question related to that properties file which you mentioned just before that certificate file topic. So
Yes.
you said like we can remove, we can have a single file having all the properties. So how JMeter will identify, okay, which properties file JMeter will have to pick and all. So if
While
is it
launching, you have to mention. So
okay,
you will
okay,
launch jmeter.bat, right?
right,
That file. So you have to
right,
add that property using there's a command line argument you have to add. So that
okay,
will associate that property.
okay, 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 got it.
Yeah. Otherwise, it will take from the default properties.
Right, 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 right. That's what I'm asking. Okay.
So that will give some flexibility. Mainly, if you are running in CI/CD pipelines.
Yes.
Locally, you can do whatever you want. There's nothing, no need to follow that. But whatever I'm telling is for a high volume test and regression test, CI/CD test, right? So for those things, it will be very helpful.
Okay.
So this is what I do for recording. Mainly that SSL, the certificate generation, you have to take care. And then I don't really care about the transactions. So those things and all is up to your personal preference. If you want to name the transaction however you want, you can name it. But we follow some standards, right? Like T00 something or S00 something or business transaction name or project name. So you can follow your own naming conventions to name the transactions, requests. So it's up to the project and personal preference. Okay, so that is another thing where you can organize properly. So always give some name to your transactions. Otherwise, it will be by default, it will add some number _1, _2. So it will be very hard to navigate. Okay, and also
Naveen,
when it comes to, yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Just one question here. We were talking about certificates. Uh,
Mhm.
I usually run my scripts as such whenever I'm using any HTTPS request. But I was asked one question in an interview, and I read about it on internet as well, about some client-side certificates for security purpose. Some security certificates. Can you tell me a little about it? What are the security certificates that we need to add in our script, and
So
what is
usually,
the part?
see some of the application, right? It needs to we need to install the certificate. Otherwise, you cannot interact with the application because of the secured nature. So at that time, you have to procure the certificate. Usually, I get it from development team, and then they will give some password also. So you have to put it in your bin folder, and you can install in your local also. And then when JMeter, right? In JMeter, if you go to Tools menu, there are options to import the certificate. Okay, so if you import the certificate, it will prompt you to enter the password, and if it is a valid password, then it will install it for JMeter, so that JMeter can talk to that application. Okay,
Okay, so
otherwise
the one
it cannot
way is
interact.
okay. I got your answer. So the one way of adding it is through tools and adding the certificate, and the second way is in putting it in which file is system or properties file.
No, you don't need to put anything in the file. I mean, are you talking about locally or somewhere else?
Okay, so it serves the same purpose, I believe, just like the authentication does. There's some authentication we use in our request, user ID and password. Does the same purpose?
No. Authentication, you put it in your JMeter test plan or some user-defined variables, right? You
Yeah.
put it there.
Yes. Yeah, I get how we do it in JMeter. I was just asking about the purpose of adding the certificates for the security reasons, as you said. So the
Security
certificate,
and
we are not able to access the application without that certificate.
correct. Mainly to access the application, we have to install that.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That answered my
yeah.
question. Thank you so much, Naveen.
Sure, no problem.
Navi, it's like a credit certificate like that.
Sorry, Vinod, what is it? You mean credit
That
certificate? What is it?
that security certificate, key certificate. For sometimes we need to install. For example, we have API testing. So that
Mm-hmm.
time the developers provide some security certificate and key certificate. So like that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
For
correct,
accessing.
correct, Vinod, yes. Yeah, some of the
Thank you.
application, right, they will have some additional layer to interact. So
Okay.
that is why they give that artifacts to us.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I see an option of import from C URL. Is that the correct option? How we import the certificate?
Uh, no, it is not actually. That is a curl command. That is different.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not in front of computer. Probably I can tell you later and I can
Okay.
message you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, when it comes to recording, mainly I face issues with respect to certificates. So it depends on case by case, right? You might need to configure some additional properties. So it depends on the application you're working. But if you have any questions, right, important thing is you have to talk to the development team or your DevOps guys who will deploy the application, right? They will be able to help you out. Okay. So any other tips you guys have for recording? Any issues you face from anyone?
Yeah, hi, Akshay
Hi,
here.
Akshay. Hi, Akshay.
Yeah, actually, Navin, what are the challenges we are facing is like recording the cloud applications. It is
Mm-hmm.
getting more difficult nowadays. So, any solutions for that? So, I'm doing some tests in Azure. So, redirection is only not happening from one page, one Azure authentication to next landing page. So normally it is working properly. When I record through JMeter, the issue is like it is not redirecting in the browser.
Okay, couple of things. So one is how many times the redirection happens. That one we have to figure it out. Okay, by default, JMeter handles only, I don't know the number, but it handles only some limit for redirections. So I have seen Azure and all, right? They have multiple redirections. So one redirection will cause another redirection. It keeps
So
going
besides
up to 4 to 5
redirect,
layers.
yeah.
So in that case, I would prefer to manually add the request to JMeter.
Okay.
So you have to capture the redirects from your network Chrome developer tools. Then if JMeter is not able to capture during recording, then you have to manually add those redirects to your test plan. I think it mainly happens for authentication, right?
Yes, only for
Yeah,
authentication.
authentication is always challenging when it comes to Azure or AWS, right? Because they will have multiple redirections and a single sign-on, and what kind of authentication they are using, right? OAuth 1.0, 2.2, SAML. So there again, the various mechanisms are there. For each mechanism, you have to adopt a different strategy. For AWS and all, you have to sign that particular key. So you have to use the signature SDK in AWS. So you have to use that. It's a little bit complicated. So that is why I always ask the team remove that auth layer and let us give one landing page where I can access the login page directly.
Okay.
So sometimes, it is very tough to programmatically do that. So we remove that authentication. Anyway, in cloud and all, if it goes, authentication will handled by third-party solution. Like for Azure AD, we have, and AWS also they have their own authentication layer. GCP also they have their own authentication layer. So I always ask, okay, give me one page where I can land directly and give the credentials. So that approach you can take, or if there's no other way, then you have to manually capture that, then you have to add it in your JMeter test plan. So it will be a little complicated. I understand. It is complicated because I have worked on a couple of applications on that. So you can use, there are a couple of extensions are available. For SIML, there is an extension in Chrome also. You can just Google. So that extension will tell you where that SIML token is getting generated. So you can easily identify that token information. Then you can correlate in JMeter directly. So instead of searching manually where the token is getting generated, you can use the extensions. So that will highlight you where it is getting generated. So there are a little bit of tricks and tips. You can just Google it. You will get some information.
Sure, Naveen. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, let me admit a couple of folks. Hi, Sid. Good morning.
Hey, hi Naveen. Sorry, I am late.
No problem. We are just discussing, getting started.
Yeah, I have one question, maybe little bit related to JMeter.
Yeah, sure.
But it's not completely related to the sticking to the topic you are discussing today. So I have one question, generic question, like in JMeter, if you are going for CI/CD, CI/CD performance testing, continuous integration, continuous development, and continuous performance testing. So what is the risk factor that you will cover all the tests and you'll also monitor? So what level you can monitor, like if there is any memory leaks happen? So if it's, so JMeter always the reports which will give, okay, all SLAs are good, you're done, go to release. What is the risk factor there? So that is the only one question I have. Apart from that,
so usually I get only response time. That is the main thing. But memory leaks and all, again, we have to manually deep dive.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. Like, so we cannot always cover all those tests in the CI/CD, right?
No, there are tools are there to automatically take a dump, right? Whenever there is some violation, we can do that. But usually I do the regression load testing, basically. So daily,
but it's automated, right? Help me to understand. So once the developers give the build, so Jenkins will deploy the build. So once Jenkins will kickstart your JMeter test, let's say the regression, then in regression SLA is good, then it will trigger for the stress or scalability or endurance. So that's what I'm understanding, my thinking, but I'm not sure involved in that kind of testing here. So
Mainly,
once everything is done, it will automatically deploy to the prod. That's what, right?
Yeah, production deployment is different. One moment. Actually, production deployment, right? That is continuous deployment. So here CI/CD, when I meant, what is meant is continuous integration, continuous development, we can say, or what is that another term? I forgot the term. Okay, whatever you meant, the production, right? That is deployment. That is continuous deployment. I'm not talking about continuous deployment. Continuous delivery. Sorry, CI/CD. Continuous delivery means we are not going to prod. We are just stopping before prod.
So my question is, what is your role? Because Jenkins triggering everything, right? So what is your role?
So my role is to monitor the outcome of the execution daily, whatever we are executing, right? I just want to monitor whether there is a violation in yesterday's run and last week's run. I just compare two metrics.
But it's just only regression testing, right?
Yeah, 3 o'clock it triggers. Assume that 3 o'clock every day I'm running my test automatically. So it will send me a message in Microsoft Teams. Okay, these are the list of transactions we executed today, and this is the response time. Okay, and then it will give you the yesterday's response time in the another column and last week's response time in another column. And it will just highlight, okay, what is the red or green. That's it.
Okay.
So
it's basically it's helping you to start it. That's it.
Correct. Start and give the report, and anybody can see the report. And if something is wrong or if everything is failing, then manually I have to go to Dynatrace and see what's going on.
Okay.
But whatever you said, it's also possible to automate. It needs more, we have to have a relevant set of tools. We have to write some shell scripts, and then we can implement that.
but still risk factor is more, right? Say, see, so when you're comparing the yesterday's build and today's build, are they going to be a prod, or it's going to be in your stick to your
Stage.
performance environment stage? Okay, got it.
Stage only. See,
Yeah,
manually, prod is manual deployment.
got it. So I
So
was
we
under
have
the
not.
assumption that so it just trigger automatically from there as well.
No. We are not reached yet actually.
Okay,
Eventually, we have to go reach there. But most of the organization I have worked, manual deployment only. Every day they do, but it's a manual deployment.
got it.
Sudarshan, Sudhakar, you were about to tell something, right? Sorry, I interrupted. What was that? Sudhakar? Okay, I think he is away.
Yeah, but but if everything is automated, there is a risk factor, right, Naveen? So every day if deployment happening, what is when you will be getting the time to completely thoroughly checking the performance testing?
Correct. That is also there, yes. Yeah, too much automation also bad.
Yeah, that's what. See, I worked on, so most of, like I said, I'm into microservices. So, see, monolithic testing is different and individual testing is different. So, that is only the big task. Again, if you want to automate, so to identify in the backend microservices which you're utilizing and their functionality itself is like ocean. If you automate this, it will like chaos like anything. So, that proposal, my manager is strictly denying. So I thought of having that discussion here. So
Yeah, okay, whatever I created is very simple, straightforward, nothing fancy here. But I have seen people who create last client I have worked, we created a pipeline. It will automatically raise a Jira ticket.
Oh,
So if there is a violation, right, it will automatically send a API call to Jira. It will create a ticket and then it will assign a respective team. So we have implemented a similar thing in my previous client. So we implemented. So it depends on what you want, right?
but
What you
only
want to
basic is like
accomplish.
response time. When you say violation,
Yeah,
response time violation.
response time. Yes. Not the other CPU or memory. CPU memory also will watch it, but it will automatically trigger the alerts from Dynatrace. So if
Okay,
something goes wrong, Dynatrace will show you the problems and alerts.
okay, got it. Yeah.
So
So
yeah, it depends on what you want to achieve, what do you
okay,
need. Based on that, you can design.
okay. Anyway, that proposal has denied here. So microservices.
Okay,
So it
okay.
depends on the app level as well. Like what based on the necessity of work they want to process. If they want to automate everything, that's depend. But still, there is a risk factor is more in the CI/CD into performance. That's what
Correct.
we had a proposal and it was stopped.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that's what I thought of
Sudhakar,
discussing. Thanks, Naveen.
okay, no problems. Yes. Sudhakar, are you still there?
Yes, tell me, Naveen.
Yeah, you were about to tell something, right? I interrupted. So what was that?
Actually, I missed that one now.
CACD, you think you were about to tell something.
Yes. CACD actually it is mainly used for build comparison also. So
Okay,
when if you want to compare current build results with previous, for that purpose it will use mainly, as per
But
my
when
knowledge.
yeah, so anybody in the team, like any listeners, anyone working such kind of environment like CI/CD, deployments and triggering the performance builds, anybody would be if they share their
Yes.
experience, that would be great.
Mainly we can trigger that one anytime. Mainly that is the purpose and build comparison. So if you want to start our test midnight, so you can set up all those things in Jenkins.
Yeah.
so how about
Yeah,
production
answering
deployment, Sudhakar? Is it automated production deployment?
Deployments means in what
In
purpose?
production,
Deployments means
in production,
In CI/CD, he's asking like in CI/CD, you compared a build and let's say it's good. So how it going forward to be in production? That's what he's asking.
uh,
I think probably
so
anybody really working on that CI/CD, pipeline triggering their performance testing in our audience, if they share their experience, it would be more realistic, I guess.
I said our team is also working on same, and we are also working on continuous integration and continuous development only. As Sudhakar said, The deployment is manual to production, but yeah, we are compare the main motive of it is to compare the results with the previous builds and against various thresholds set by us in the builds. So yeah, that's the current pace we are running as of now. But yeah, there are various things that needs to be put in the builds to make the build ready to be moved to the to be automatically moved to the production. So in my experience also, we have done
Yes.
continuous integration and then comparing the builds with the previous ones.
Yeah, thanks, Eha. So, well, how about
If it
apart from response times, what are the metrics you're monitoring? Like Navin also said, CPU memory from Dynatrace or AppD. Apart from that, what kind of threshold you set for build comparison?
These things only: CPU memory, response times, and setting alerts and warnings for that.
So,
Yeah.
how about script maintenance and any changes? How do you do like what is generally? Would you explain like what is your role in CI/CD performance
So
testing? Yeah.
yes, so our role is basically to create the builds, Jenkins builds, for the we create. Let's say I'm triggering the JMeter script from it, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
create a parameterized JMeter script and I'll invoke that script in a Jenkins build. I'll create a build and I'll share it with the DevOps team. So DevOps team will include that build in their Jenkins pipeline that is going to be triggered. So my job as a performance tester is to create a build that can trigger my JMeter script from there and then, and that has various thresholds level in it that compares the current build to the previous build. So my role is that integrating the build into the pipeline is the job of the DevOps team.
How about after the test results? That's also your role, right? Like comparing.
So there's a section in the build wherein you can trigger mails. So in mails you can add your analysis, whatever how you configure your mails. So in mails we currently have the option of HTML report viewing. So we get the mails whenever the build is triggered, and we can check the mails and the HTML report to the mails. So that's how we do it as of now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Eha. Thanks, Eha.
And you can configure your mails completely according to your requirement. Whatever information you want to view about the build, you can completely configure the mails according to your needs.
Okay. How about the rest of the tests? Have you ever done? There is a chance. Okay. So these tests need to be covered, carry forward, like apart from the regression test. So do you have that visibility as well? What is the
uh,
scope
I,
of the tests? Like
I'm sorry,
stress
I
test.
didn't understand your question completely.
Now, how about the scope of other tests like stress test or endurance test to find out the or
Okay.
scalability test, such kind?
So I believe the metrics would change there, and then the current. When I say parameterized build, there's a parameter for test duration as well that we have created. There's for test duration how what is the load and what is sometimes the developer needs to run for let's say the host name changes. So there are various parameters. Test duration is one, but we usually run it for 1 hour. The performance test we run for 1 hour. We've never tried for soak run, but I believe for soak run the same build would not be compatible. Please correct me, Naveen, if I'm wrong there, because the results for soak run are a little different as to the normal runs that we do, 1 hour execution. It completely depends on how the cache is being used in the run and what sort of data. So I believe for the thresholds would differ a little
Yeah,
there
yeah,
for soak run
that's
and for a
true.
normal execution.
That's true. But now, what is
But
my
yeah,
question is
we
like
have not
if
yet covered a soak run in the Jenkins build.
okay,
And
okay, so that
and
you
yes,
are
soak run would definitely be. I believe it would be need basis, and I don't see a need of in involving it in a CI/CD pipeline. Do you see?
got it.
I mean,
Got it. You answered my question, Neha. So that's what
okay.
I was thinking about. So actually, I in Ruby on Rails project, I have this Jenkins in 2013 itself, calling the load runner scripts, but that is for the POC purpose. So after
Mhm.
that, I never touched into CI/CD. Yeah, thanks for that's a lot information, Neha. Thanks.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Iha. Yeah, okay, let us go back to JMeter, productivity hacks. We have deviated a little bit. That's fine.
I'm sorry for that,
uh,
Naveen. That's real.
no, no problem, no problem. Anyway, it is about CI/CD, JMeter only, right?
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
okay. So next we can talk about how we can optimize the JMeter test plan. So usually what my experience, right? We eventually will add a lot of elements to JMeter. So and we forget to disable, right? So always try to disable all the listeners, all the assertions, all the unnecessary stuffs, duplications. So nothing should be there apart from your project or application related elements. So everything you have to disable. Basically, try to delete everything. No, you don't need anything for your load testing purpose. So if you add assertions and all right, it will add more CPU and it will take more time to process. So you don't need that. Delete all the irrelevant stuffs from your JMeter test plan and keep it very short as much as possible. Okay, so don't add anything unnecessary. And also when it comes to third-party plugins, so before you use any plugins, go to the GitHub repository of the plugin and see what is the age of that GitHub repository and it is active or not, how many issues are open, and if there are more number of issues, read the issues and make sure it is not impacting your test. So I have seen people, they blindly install plugins whatever they want, and at the end of the day it will not work properly, and again we have to rework. So if you are using plugins, do this research at least for a couple of hours and install the plugin and make sure you inform your team, everybody, so and so plugin has been installed, and please if you open the script, please try to install the plugins. So we have a GitHub repository in my project. So we usually, whenever somebody adds some plugin, they update the repository so that people will know, okay, these are the plugins you have to install before opening the script. So this will bring some good hygiene to the project. Otherwise, everybody install their own plugins and it will be mix and match, and eventually you might the script might be corrupted or you might get lost. So always install only the relevant plugins for your project. Every day there are new plugins are coming up, so you have to just keep a tab on that and make sure you use only the stable ones. Okay. So how many of you develop plugins? Anybody develop plugins for JMeter? Any experience on that? Any developer for JMeter in our group?
I started looking into your video, Naveen, but still I'm in the process. I'll let you know once.
Okay, I started developing one plugin, but it's hanging around. Again, I have to resume that. Yeah, I have some couple of ideas in mind. I have to resume. Probably once I get time, I have to develop some plugins. Sudhakar, any the plugins you developed?
No.
Okay. Yeah, plugins again, it saves time, but also it brings some of the disadvantage. So make sure you do it properly. Otherwise, it is unnecessary for your scripting purpose. And also try to implement the function instead of developing plugins. If it is possible to create some functions, you can easily create it. Custom functions. I'm not talking about JMeter built-in functions. Custom function. For example, if you want to say reverse a string, right? So it is not there. So if you want to implement some kind of small utility, then you can easily create the custom functions. So I have created a couple of functions. I think I have posted in my GitHub repository. You can check it out. So it is very easy to create functions instead of plugins. So when it comes to development, right, JMeter doesn't have any documentation. Even if you do Google search for 1 week or so, right, you don't get any help on developing plugins unless you are a core Java developer. So I'm telling now itself. So if you are trying to develop some plugins, better to learn Java first, at least spend a couple of weeks on Java, then come to development side of JMeter. So this will save you a lot of time. Again, for JMeter functions also, you need little bit of experience how to read the code in JMeter, but again, it will take some days. Then only you can develop the functions. And before developing functions, again, usually what I do is I go to the built-in functions and see whether similar functionality has been done or not. And also I do a quick search in GitHub or GitLab repository, because some of the developers, right, what they do, they develop plugins, but they don't publish in the official repository. So if you do a quick search in GitLab or GitHub, then or Bitbucket, right, you get some idea. Then you can make use of the same files in your project. So this also will save a lot of time. I have seen many plugins which is not there in the official repository. So you can follow this process for your project work and make sure the code is proper and nothing you are sharing with the other third party. So you have to quickly go through the code also. And by default, right, whenever you install plugins, some statistics it will send, the usage statistics. I don't know how many of you seen that. So you can turn off that particular sharing the stats. So it is like how many plugins you are using, how many installations you are doing, how many times you have downloaded. So those kind of information will be sent to the backend, jmeterplugins.that website. So if you want to stop that, you have to change the properties file so that you don't share your data to them. So always I do that. Any software. So any software I install, I try to save my privacy, right? So I always disable that usage statistics sharing. So you can also follow that. And when it comes to, yes, Anurag.
Sorry to interrupt. Naveen, so for example, you develop XYZ plugin for JMeter. How will they approve and publish to the official JMeter also?
So you have to submit a pull request to the JMeter plugins repository in GitHub, and you need to follow certain best practices and process. So you have to submit some JSON payload with all the information, and you have to map it to the right repository, whichever repository has the code, and the reviewers, right, they will go through and nothing is suspicious and right, nothing is security wise, everything is good and not. Then they will approve it. Then once it is approved, it will automatically show up in the plugins manager.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it will take a couple of days to get it approved.
Okay, because I am new to that plugin, so that's why.
Got it. Okay. And if you're working in a corporate network, whenever you try to install plugins, you might face issues that the plugin might not get downloaded properly, or it will not even open the interface. So in that case, you have to go to the properties file and you have to add your proxy information. So if you are on a corporate network, you have to add the proxy.
Okay. Thank you, Naveen.
Yeah. So this also will be, the proxy settings also will be very helpful if you are launching JMeter and trying to access some google.com from your corporate network. So proxy always plays a critical role when it comes to our company network. So always try to add the proxy and give the username and password. Then you can launch JMeter to access the internet. Otherwise, it will not work. So this is about JMeter plugins and functions. So anybody has any inputs on these two areas, plugins and functions? Any inputs? So which plugin you use frequently? So which plugin is very, very helpful for you? Which plugin is not good? A lot of defects. Any inputs on that? Anybody? Any interesting plugins you have come across?
SH1 collector.
Which one plugin? Which one, Sudhakar?
SH1 collector.
Okay, SH1. Okay, SH monitor. Okay.
So it will collect directly if you use SAR and free command. So it will give directly server level, core level information, CPU and memory information in graphical view. That is very good plugin.
Oh, cool. So it works only for Linux boxes. Linux boxes, yes.
Yes. It is a Linux server. So it will give directly core level in the graphical view.
Okay. Any plugin for similar to for Windows? We have Perfmon, right? So that one
Yes,
for Windows.
We have Perfmon collector. Yes. Perfmon collector is there Windows. We have to install agent in server so that it will collect metrics for Windows server server.
Hey Naveen. So there is an Inmon as well, so which I used long back. So why don't you create a plugin to call Inmon? So it will directly give the results in .inmon format, and you have to import into Excel, and it will analyze and give you. How about that idea?
So can you give some light on Inmon?
So it's like basically Perfmon. So it's a free utility. We have to install into that server. So once the test starts, you have to give nmon command. So it will be collecting all the metrics. Once it is done, it will give you it'll give you the .nmon extension file. Then you need to analyze with this Excel utility, which is also from nmon. So it will give you the in detail graphs, everything.
It is only
Yes,
for
yes,
network related.
Yes, but some companies have restrictions on that to use Nmon. So at that time,
Not
you have to
network
go with
related,
one.
Naveen, like completely the server, the Linux server, CPU,
Okay.
memory, everything process, JVM level, how many JVMs are running, and what is the input output, everything. Disk IO. It's like lot of metrics in that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
But
hi,
some companies have restrictions. So in that case, we have to go with some JMeter defaults one. So
Oh,
I used SHMon.
and hi, this is Madan. You can use one more sampler, that OS process sampler. Using that one also, you can capture Nmon statistics, as well as even you can capture AWR report. If required, you can run some batch commands also in
oh,
between background batches used to inject, right? So that one you can perform using that OS process sampler. That is like you can invoke any like third-party tools using that sampler, and you can run your command. So that is also one good thing. So better you guys, if you go through, you could come to know that.
So I have a question here, Madan. So if you are using, say, very high volume test, like 1,000 or 10,000 threads, so how that OS process will take care of that load, that huge volume?
Okay. Yeah, in that time, what you have to do, like in my case, what I have done, so I am not actually integrated that OS process sampler with that whatever volume I am injecting for 10,000 or 10 million records per hour, like if I'm going to like put a load, right? So you have to select one separate load generator machine where you run only with these statistics. You have to capture nmon, you can add your, if suppose you have to capture 8 JMX port details, for that one also you can use that OS process sampler, and this as I said, right, AWR report also you can capture using that one. So as you said that if you integrate with that one, right, again due to these things, it should not exhaust that load generator machines. So I use
So,
it separately. Yeah,
so basically we have to run with one thread of OS sampler in that particular machine, then another script for the load, correct?
Yeah, load, correct. No, that's correct.
Okay, got it. Okay.
so
And
that
also OS, go ahead, sir, please.
so that thread will trigger this whatever reports you want. So in the report level, in nmon level, Naveen, you have the options to how many millisecond interval you need to collect the results and metrics, and you can also give the duration. From
Yeah.
the report will be the normal process to triggering that report. I think the one sampler process he has mentioned,
Yeah.
right? You can use that one. Yep.
Correct.
So what
Okay.
what is that like? Usually, like you can actually invoke putty, and from putty you can run the command. As you said, for even for vmstat command also you can run using that JMeter. See, for example, earlier monolithic application, you can say you have around 8 to 10 application server, so you have to capture that 8 to 10 application server vmstat as well as nmon details. So again, when you start the load test, right, before, like we used to go each and every like node one putty we have to invoke, and then we used to capture. So instead doing that one, you can put everything in one JMeter only. So you can add around 8 OS process sampler, and you can trigger that one. So it will save a lot of time, I can say.
Okay, got it. Got it. Thanks, Madan, for sharing that info.
Yeah, thanks.
Also, we can use OS sampler for OCSP, right, Sudhakar?
Now OCSP, if you want to execute some command from command prompt, or if you want to execute some PowerShell commands, you can use OS process sampler.
So you're using, you have written custom script for OCSP, or you use OS sampler?
OS sampler only. No, I just
Okay.
executed commands by using that.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that will be very easy way, right?
Yes, easy way.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Probably one
so
session we have to
only
conduct for OCSP from Sudhakar, I guess.
Okay, I will conduct a session?
Because many people they don't work on OCSP. I have seen it's pretty new to them, right? Probably you can give one session on that eventually.
Okay, I will give on OCSP and OS process sampler.
Okay, probably we can conduct some Zoom session, right, so that we can see visually. We can touch base, Sudhakar, once this is done.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sure, Naveen.
Sure. Okay, any other plugins, interesting plugins? So recently I have come across a right tail detector. Anybody using that plugin? Right tail detector. So basically it will just clean up your statistics, like outliers. So those things it will just clean up. So you can just give a try. It's very simple plugin, nothing fancy. So you can just check it out. It will be useful for web application and also web services performance testing.
Naveen, I have a question. Like, is there
Yeah.
any sampler for LG metrics collection? Like in JMeter world, I don't know. You people will monitor the LG health or not. So, is there any sample such way?
Again, perform an SS mon, right? You can use the same samplers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you people monitor that LG health as well in JMeter world? Like
No,
how the health is
generally,
done?
if you run in command mode, so if you are facing any issues in LG, it will give generally mainly out of memory issues. Other than that, we won't get much issues.
Okay.
If you want to check LG health.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, CPU,
Yeah.
I monitor. Basically, I just see it is not exceeding more than 70% or so. But again, I just periodically I just check what's the usage. That's it. So if you just hit some top command, right, it will automatically show you, right? So I just go to some random instance and then I just check everything is fine or not.
Got it.
So that is one thing we do. But commercial tools automatically it will give you the statistics. So like NeoLoad or load runner, right? It will give you the host metrics. I mean LG host. Those things you can see it automatically. Yeah, that is the beauty of commercial tools, right? You get some additional features like this.
Yes, Naveen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What else? Okay, we have touched base the plugins, functions. Okay, HTTP sampler. So HTTP sampler. So what kind of tricks you guys have for HTTP sampler? So usually I always check the resources. So if you go to advanced tab, there is a section to download the embedded resources. So whenever I test the e-commerce websites, I usually check that box and then I try to retrieve the resources. So that will give you the somewhat very high response time if you are not unchecking, if you are unchecking that. So there are differences, right? So I think we had a class from Nicole on August 7th, right? The realistic load testing. So at that time also we have discussed this. So whenever you test the web application in JMeter, always go to the advanced tab and check that box, embedded resources. So this will download the CSS file, JavaScript file, PNG, logo file, font. So everything it will get downloaded and then you can simulate the browser-like scenario. So that will give you some somewhat realistic measurement. So always try to embed that particular resources whenever you work in the web applications.
Means it will act like asynchronous, right? Like parallel requests.
Correct. Exactly.
Right.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
So that will show you the high response time. If you uncheck that, you will get a good response time because JMeter will not download that resource. Then it will show you only the server processing time. So you will get the two different response time. This will be very helpful to compare between the server side processing and how the browser will load. So it is not exactly apple to apple comparison, but it tries to behave like a browser, but it's not actually a browser. So that's the beauty
but
of
it is suggestible always, Naveen. Means you can use that option always or any specific to application we have to use otherwise as per client requirement it would be how it would be.
So Usually I check that box whenever I work on the web applications, the UI performance,
Okay.
basically the browser performance, right? So I check that
Okay.
box. But if it is a web service, you don't really need to check that.
Okay.
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 Yeah. And also whenever you actually there is another implementation, right? If you go to that advanced tab, there is an implementation, HTTP implementation. So
Yes,
always
yes,
go
yes.
with the
That.
default implementation. So always default HTTP. Do not go with the Java one. So Java one has a bottleneck because of the JVM. So don't select the Java. Always go with the HTTP 4 implementation. So that is people sometimes they change and then they forget, right? Then under the high load, you may see some issues.
I am
So
getting Java bind maybe due to that.
Java bind error
Yes, yes.
might be, I don't know.
Very good.
Depends on the application you are working.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go with the default implementation, which is HTTP 4.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And do not change anything like a connection time and another timeout, right? So don't
Yes.
change anything. Go with the default properties. Whatever properties file they have defined, always go with the default values. So I always tell
Yes.
people whoever comes to me, right? If you are not sure, always go with the default values. So that is the best way to handle that kind of scenarios. And if you have a time, you can just Google and learn more about the property. But if you are in a doubt, go with the default properties always.
Yes.
So okay, let us talk about execution. So how you guys do execution? I'm not talking about load testing, like a debugging or some simple smoke testing. So how you guys do? Any inputs I can get it from that area execution?
Can you repeat once?
Yeah, normal debugging. How you guys debug JMeter script,
Okay.
like a small
Okay.
smoke test. So any inputs on that?
Debugging means we will do by using debug sampler, or we will run with some minimum number of users and minimum iterations by using vResults. In that way, we can do debugging.
Debugging. Okay.
And log
And
level as well.
yeah, log level. Yes, log level also will be very helpful. And
Yes, yes.
BlazeMeter has a plugin. I don't know how many of you use that. That for debugging. Have you used that plugin? Anybody? A step-by-step
What's the plugin?
debugger. A step-by-step debugger.
No.
Yeah,
No. Okay.
I've read about that. It's like F10 we use in load runner. So yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
Probably. Yeah. That
how I
also will
will
be very helpful. Yes, Adil. Please go ahead.
so how I will do, right? I will point the traffic to Fiddler, and I'll just put that interceptor on so that I can pass each request one by one, so I
Mhm.
can know what's going on, all these things for debugging.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Fiddler. Okay. Any other ways?
Yeah, we can also use debug post processor, which will be available in the post processor area. So if you want to debug for any particular request, whether our correlated capture value is capturing or not, we can use that also, debug post processor.
Okay. Yeah. Debug post processor. Yes. So in JMeter 5.5, the yet to release, right? That they have improved that debug sampler and the debug post processor. So there are some improvements made. So you can also check it out once it is released. So it should be very helpful.
Okay.
So I have seen that new feature.
Okay.
Actually, I have published already a blog I published, but it is not released. I just published ahead. So you can check it out in my blog. I already put some screenshots and all how that new features works. So usually what I do is whenever I want to validate, right, I right click on the thread group and then I select validate. I don't know how many of you do that, but that is the best way I will quickly validate the script. So no need to change anything in the thread group or say a loop count, right? Or think time, nothing. Just right click on the thread group, validate. It will run for one user without any think time. So that is one of the best way to validate quickly your script.
So how about transaction control? You people use Realistic Transaction Control for transaction response time, or
Yes, I
any other
use all the
controller?
time. I use
Okay,
it all the time.
because expert like you suggested only transaction control to use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
transaction. Yeah, because we need to measure a set of steps, right? So we always put into the transaction, like a login, do something like a search, transactions, transfer money, right? Some kind of transaction we want to measure, we always put it in a transaction controller.
Yeah, for complicated scenarios and
Correct.
actions. Yep. Okay.
So usually what I do, I create a sub transaction basically. I will have one parent transaction, and within the transaction, I create multiple sub transactions. Because we do not know anytime somebody, okay, product owner or architect, they will change their mind and then they will ask, okay, give me the total response time or give me only subset response time. So instead of going back and forth, usually what I do, I create a master transaction, and within the master transaction, I will have many child transactions. So that will save some time without going back and forth. So Loadrunner also has the same thing, right? Sub transaction concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can same approach.
Roadrunner only then it's visible. I mean, for visual it will be clear. Geometry is like hidden treasures. You have to hide and seek. You have
Correct,
to find
correct,
it
correct.
out and like a little more digging.
Correct. Yes, yes. Okay. So this is about debugging. And log level, yes. So log level, usually I go with the default log level. But if you want to deep dive into some, so before going to Fiddler or some other Dynatrace, right? So usually what I do, I turn on a very high tracing level. I change it, and then I just run with one iteration and see what's going on in that particular request. So that will give more insights to your HTTP request and response. So that also you can follow by changing the log level. But again, once you change, you have to revert it. Otherwise, it will unnecessarily log everything. So log level also will be very helpful. And what is the next important thing we do in JMeter? Apart from results we can discuss now. So before that, before going to results, any other area you need any inputs so that I can share my views?
Yeah, Naveen, have you ever used this JSR 233 or 223 pre or post processor?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I used for the for certificate purpose one time, but is there any extra features from there?
Yeah, if you want to send some custom request, you can write something in JSON Groovy, or if you want to say update some headers, or if you want to process something, right? The custom needs everything Groovy only, all the time. So all the custom coding always JSR 223.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a scenario where I face a situation where I need to capture entire response. It have some 5 values, but while sending request, I need to replace only 5th value at this time. So in these scenarios, we have to use Groovy with our Bean Shell preprocessor, and we have to acquire our results.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, all the payload customization manipulation, right? It's a JSR 223. If, for example, JSON, right? JSON, if you want to work on JSON, then best way is JSR 223 only. See, for example, I want to send some 5 customer details in one JSON. So that customer details should come from previous request. So you cannot parameterize that, right? So you have to write some JSON using JSON slurper. You have to write some coding. Then you have to send it in the payload.
Yeah, makes sense. I have a similar kind of scenario. Like each card will have multiple tokens when I need to send manually. So probably I can.
Yes. Yeah, we cannot parameterize those kind of things.
Yeah.
So again, JSR 223. Again, JSR 223. No need to be an expert. Even I am not an expert in Groovy. So I just Google and what things needs to be done. I just design some high level logic. I just write it. So Groovy again is a big topic, right? We are not a Groovy developers. We are just scripting in Groovy.
So As a basic question, like for JMeter, what are the script language we need? Like Bean Shell and Groovy, you mentioned we need not to be expert, but apart from Bean Shell and Groovy, is there any other things we can learn? Or
Bean shell it will outdate soon, so there's no point in learning Bean shell.
okay,
Probably if you want to maintain the old scripts, if you want to update your knowledge, right, then you can learn Bean shell. Because JMeter community, they don't recommend Bean shell as a language. They recommend Groovy
okay,
because of the performance improvements. So Groovy, it will have very high performance, but Bean shell, you don't get. If you want to inject some high load, then Bean shell is not a candidate. You need to write in Groovy. Again, JMeter community, they don't support the JavaScript also. So do not use JavaScript in your JMeter. Try to avoid JavaScript. JavaScript is not a very high performant language.
so
Okay.
your suggestion
Try
is to go for Groovy.
Yes, Groovy is
Groovy
the
or
best
Java.
option.
Yeah, Groovy or Java. Second is Java.
Thanks, Naveen.
Okay. Yeah. Never ever Java. Try to avoid JavaScript at all. Wherever for performance testing, whenever performance testing comes, try to avoid JavaScript. Okay. And Bean shell in JMeter. So don't implement anything on that. Because after a few releases, right, you don't see Bean shell as an option. Okay, that is my speculation. After 2 to 3 years, you don't get that Bean shell sampler or Bean shell option in JMeter at all. They'll completely replace with Groovy. Or who knows, something new comes up, right? So the new language might take a place instead of Bean shell.
Naveen, you can also write code in Python. There is
Yes, Python you can write, but that is again eating your food like other way around. Right? Have you tried that, Mrunal? Python
no,
in JMeter?
I added that Jython engine, and I haven't tried, but there is option available. If somebody is comfortable writing Python code in Python, they can.
Yes, Python also it is possible, but performance-wise, it will be slow.
Yeah, you can use it when the load is not very high.
Correct. And if you want to achieve something very simple with very few lines, you can achieve something, right? Then Python is the best approach. But you have to install that jar file, right? That particular Python, that thing you have to install in library. Then you can write it in JSR 223.
Yeah, Python runtime.
Right. So one more thing is some of the like all the libraries it won't support it. All the packages in Python, Jython won't support, right? So I faced a problem.
Yes, we cannot use pip install JSON or pip install something CSV or pandas. So really we cannot do. I don't know. We cannot do that, I guess. Right, really?
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
It's a very lightweight port of Python.
Yeah, but default libraries you can use. Whatever Python comes with the default libraries, right? You can use that. But yeah, custom library, I think there should be a way. But out of the box, I don't see any support.
Okay.
Actually, yes, sir, please go ahead. No, go ahead.
So recently what I did is I just, maybe somebody might have tried also, VTS, right? So I just used the VTS APIs to update the parameters into VTS, virtual table server. So it's still freely available, right?
Correct.
So if somebody has a specific thing, you can try it also. So for my thing, the scenario is I'm trying some microservices testing, and these guys need the correlation IDs, which is taking a longer time from the event state listener. So to log the correlation IDs, I tried initially with the file writing, and for a fancy thing, I just moved to this VTS.
So you capture the correlation ID and then you put it in VTS, and you read it from
the correlation
VTS.
ID in the sense, in the API services, they use it to the correlation IDs, right, for monitoring inside. So that event ID and correlation IDs, I just write it to VTS. So initially I tried the ETS UI commands, then later on I got the VTS API documentation, so which was much helpful in writing the complete row and all. So so if anyone you want to try, probably I can share the details.
So instead of writing to some file, you put it in the VTS server.
VTS, right,
server.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So that will be expired. Whatever you write, it will expire eventually, or it will be It will be there forever. That value.
It will be there, but we can clean up the table at the end of the test by right-clicking it or something like that.
No, the token, whatever you write, that ID, so that will expire, that value, whatever you write, or will it work forever?
No, it will be expired, but that's only for the tracking, right? So if I give the correlation IDs to the developers or whomever concerned, they will run the log analysis and they can trace the correlation IDs and they can able to find it out where is the bottleneck, whether it's in Kafka or any event listeners is causing the problem, something like that.
Okay.
We can write it to local file also, right?
Yeah. Local file also we can write it. Comma separated, we can write it. Just for a fancy thing. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Some appraisal related things we can show, right?
Appraisal only, Naveen.
By using Groovy, you can write it to local. That would be easy.
Yeah. Groovy writing to file is much simple, right? It's just two lines of code.
Yes.
Yeah, 3-step, right? Open, write, close.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right. Cool. So, do you know how it got named 223? Any idea? Anybody? JSR 223. Why 223?
Some Java service request. I don't know why it's 223.
Okay, it is Java specification request. So that's the full form of JSR. So basically, whatever, if you have any idea, right, for improved Java technology, you can go to that JCP, Java Community Process. So you can go to that website and then you can propose your idea, and the team, right, who are in the chair, right, they assign one number. So it would be like, say, 403 or 501, something like that. They assign some number. So JSR 223 is the feature request for the scripting, basically. So that is why that name JSR 223. So that 223rd request to improve the Java technology. So that is why the name JSR 223. So there are so many. You can go to the website. You can find it out how many IDs. There are a lot of things they have submitted. So it will go under review and it will go under voting. And once it is approved, then it will be maintained. And some of the requests also will be retired. I think JSR 223 also is retired because nowadays Java comes with its own scripting platform. I think JShell is there. If you open JShell, you can write some scripts there. And we also have Groovy. So there are different implementation they have done for scripting. So you can just go to that website and then you can find a lot of information. So JSR 223 also comes with a preprocessor and postprocessor. So again, there are 3 variants: sampler, preprocessor, postprocessor. So for each JSR 223, again, the variables, whatever variables you use, right, that also will vary. So you have to be very careful where you are writing the code.
Assassin also it will come.
Yeah, Assassin, yes, Assassins. Yeah, Assassin, usually I don't care about Assassin. I never use Assassin. It's a bad way of writing program in JMeter.
Okay.
Yeah, because it takes a lot of resources when it comes to high volume testing. So I always try to avoid. If you ask me, I never use Assassin. I always.
But sometimes
temporary, I use it. I remove.
Yeah. For test data, we have to use. Sometimes situations will come for test data. We want to store it to some past files into some file and fail into another. So situations will come where we have to use that Assassin also.
But can't we use Groovy for that?
Groovy with, but we need to validate, right? With JSR 223 Assassin only, we need to validate them.
No, JSR 223, that's the core Groovy scripting I'm talking.
Yes. Groovy only, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I usually try to avoid, 99% I try to avoid Assassins. Any Assassins I try to avoid.
Okay.
Because in JMeter documentation itself, right, if you see Assassins, you keep on reading, right, a lot of places they mention, okay, do not add, do not disable this for load testing. There's a lot of notes they have put. People usually don't spend much time on documentation, right? We miss out those details. So you can go to that documentation, read all the boxes, the small boxes they have put, right, in different colors. If you read that, you'll get a lot of insights.
I mean, there are cases where, even if the response code is 200,
Mm-hmm.
your request would have failed. In such cases, assertions become important.
Yeah, that's why I try to implement those kind of checks in JSR 223. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
So I read the response or response, whatever thing comes from the server, right? I try to validate from my JSR 223. So instead of adding the assertion will be easy, right? You can just check for the text or code. It will be very simple configuration, one-click configuration. But for a very high volume test, that is not feasible. You cannot afford to lose your resources for that. So instead, you can write some if condition in JSR 223, which will be very affordable for high volume test. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my question is around JSON extractor or JSON slurper. Like JSON extractor is the native one available with
Correct.
JMeter. JSON slurper is like we need to write the Groovy code. We can store the JSON response as a JSON file and use it. Which one will be
Correct.
better? Right now, I am using both of them.
No, you can use, if you want very high performance, right? You can go with James path.
Oh,
Yeah, because if you compare JSON path versus James path has some better improvements. I mean, both has improvements, but compared to JSON path, James path has some more additional features and performance improvements. So you can try to use James path and see, run your high volume test and see any issues you are getting.
yeah. So what now
But
is
the
that?
difference, yeah, but difference, right? If you compare JSON path, James path, the difference might be negligible. We cannot even see in our naked eye. But there are improvements being done in James path. That is why they added the James path library to JMeter. And for the advanced syntaxes, if you are working in a JSON.
Right. Definitely, I faced a lot of problems in writing advanced extraction. That means I can locate a child, and then I need to go back to the parent, or based on 2 to 3 or conditions and conditions. It was a
Correct.
bit tough, and there is not much help is available. Finally, I managed it. But one more thing is the recent JSON path version supports extraction of keys, the key value pairs, right, in JSON.
Correct.
But that thing doesn't work in 5.3. I'm not sure about 5.4. I did, but that was not working in 5.3.
Because the library is the back, outdated version, right? In 5.3, might be the reason.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, you can, if you don't want to use any extractor, again, you can write your JSON slurper. That's the only
right. Yeah, that's what I am going right now. So I thought of asking the experts here. Yeah.
Yeah, but for complex, always use James path. For example, I can give, right, if you want to find the maximum age out of 10 customers. And then how do you write something in JSON extractor? You can write it, but again, you have to write some logic. Okay, compare, find the biggest number from the output.
Right.
But if you use James path, there is a function for identifying max. Simple, one line of code, done. So that will give some flexibility. You can easily achieve something pretty quickly. And also performance wise also it is good. So you don't need to write anything on JSON slurper.
This James path, is it coming out of the box with JMeter, or is it a plugin?
It is out of the box.
Oh, nice. Recent versions, is it?
No, it is there from past couple of releases I have seen. James, it reads like a JMES.
Yeah, Google
it. JSON, James path, some expression language. And if you go to that website, you can see a lot of examples which will help you to write the expression. And also you can pipe it. So that is also the beauty of James path, right? If you want to get some output and send it as another thing to the input, again process that output, again input. So you can also pipe that your thing. So that is also another advantage of James path. So you can write everything in one line. Yeah, one line you can write it. Take a max, Okay, again filter by some requirements, again filter that. So you can do a lot of stuff in one line. Just like writing a grep command in Linux. Okay. Okay. So yeah, these are the things I want to share when it comes to scripting, other things. Okay, now let us talk about the results. So how many of you automated the results, that merging and preparing some HTML report, something like that? So any automation you guys have done on that?
In my company, we used to send to Grafana
No.
until recently. Now we are sending into Elasticsearch only for flexibility. Like we have
Got it.
Elasticsearch cluster already, so we send it there. Grafana under high load, it becomes it itself starts using a lot of CPU. So we move to
Got
Elasticsearch.
it. Oh, okay. Any other process for results? Anybody? So anybody generates raw data, in JMeter? Anybody generate HTML report? Any issues you guys faced? The default HTML report?
So
No,
we will
I feel
able
there
to
are,
generate.
because I have seen a couple of issues recently in JMeter HTML report. Mainly the aggregation has some issues and percentile. So anybody has faced any issues on that?
Percentile in the sense like when I read my Prometheus through metrics in Grafana, and that numbers were not matching with the HTML report. Not a major
Yeah.
difference though, but it's not exactly always matching.
Okay. Yeah, usually that problem will have always, all the time. Aggregation might have some issues, or it will not match with the actual value, right? So that is why I always don't generate anything locally. So we always publish to Grafana or Prometheus, some third-party dashboards. So, and also I compare with the Dynatrace or AppDynamics. So whatever APM tools you use, it is always good to compare those two and see where the time being spent. So which is high, which is less. So that will give some insights. If anybody faced that kind of issue, very high response time in JMeter but low response time in Dynatrace. So anybody faced that issues?
I got it, but I know that that's the problem with my load generator memory settings. So I didn't override it in a new load generator and got the thing, but not exactly for the report generation.
Yeah, because too many variables to consider. I understand, but usually you also face this issue. Response time will be high, but actual production deployment or in Dynatrace, right, it will not show you anything.
Right, correct.
It will be very less response time. Yeah, so you have to debug everything, all the aspects from JMeter, Java version, JMeter version, how the script has been done, think time, pacing, right? So there are a lot of variables you have to start from the top and debug everything. Because this will be some usual interview question. I have seen many people ask this question in interviews. Okay, why there is a difference? And which metrics you consider for the sign-off? Right? So these are things they'll ask usually.
So what is the answer then, Naveen? So generally, even AppD level as well, I've seen not much difference though, but little bit less response time. Yep.
Yeah, negligible. Negligible difference will be there always.
Yeah, that I observed, but not used though.
Yeah, huge means again we have to deep dive and we have to make sure JMeter is not the problem for that. So we have to rule out the JMeter factor by deep diving into JMeter. Then finally they will come always to Dynatrace only they will come. APM tools only they rely, architects or product owners or development team, right? They don't consider tool issue. So they go with the Dynatrace most of the time.
So you would say that the scenario design is one part which will clear it?
The scenario design, the way how we injected the load, right? Or some kind of performance issues might be there in JMeter side also. Some open defect might be there, but we might not aware. So it's unknown unknowns basically.
And So don't you log the JMeter transaction specifically into the Dynatrace, like adding the header?
We can tag it. Yeah, we can tag it. Yes. Yeah, we can tag it, and then we can see what's going on in that particular tag information.
Okay.
Yeah, just no harm, right? Just to add some Dynatrace header, then we can easily track.
Okay.
But how many of I don't know how many of us we really doing that. So we use in project I use Neoload. So Neoload and Loader has a built-in integration with the Dynatrace. So it's just a one-click option. So it will automatically send all the details to Dynatrace.
I used to do, but when I started my own data environment, so I won't be doing the performance transactions. So there is no necessity of that one.
Okay. Yeah, for JMeter, again, I have written a simple Groovy script. You can check my GitHub repository. So that Groovy script will automatically inject the Dynatrace header information in all the requests with some unique request number, so that you can easily trace it in Dynatrace. So similar approach, you can use it for AppDynamics.
I'll also give one more tip, which will be helpful for everyone. So what I did, so in the Splunk logs, right? So there is always mismatch of nodes sharing different environments and logging your transaction to identify. So I injected my name as a header, like a sender host name as a my name. You can edit always that one. So that is also one tip. You can identify your transaction, only your transaction. Let's say Sudhakar 123 is a transaction number. You can add Sudhakar as a host name, sender host name into your headers, request headers, so that you can identify. No need to go for any extra headers adding to identify, whether in Dynatrace or Splunk. This is also a tip. Recently I invoked, and a lot of people got appreciated about that.
Got it. Cool. Yeah, always. Yeah, usually I don't, the whole thing, right? I usually don't generate anything locally. Always publish it to some third-party dashboard. So that will store everything. That is the best practice, like Grafana or Prometheus or some other tool, whatever the tool you're comfortable. So anybody run JMeter test in Docker environment or Kubernetes? Anybody?
Docker I used to run, not in Kubernetes. Yeah.
In Docker, okay. So Docker, do you use Docker Swarm or just a Docker container?
Just containers only. So Swarm I tried for the POC, but right now not using that.
So it will just execute the script and then it will store the results. That's it, Lynn?
Yeah. So at the end of execution, right, I just move the files back into my local machine. And
you map your volume.
Testing. Yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, right, map my volume and do that. Then one of the thing I got stuck is consider configuring the RMI key store. So there were initial glitches were there. Then once it started working, then it's kind of a cakewalk. So I'm not at all bothered about that.
So you run distributed testing in Docker.
Right. Yeah.
How many containers you use?
I used to have 3 or 4 containers only.
Okay, 3 or 4. And everything is one machine or different machines?
Right, it's runtime. It will deploy the containers from Azure and it will destroy after copying that.
So 4 instances, 4 Docker containers.
Right.
Okay, got it.
So you also monitor, Sudhakar, or the containers? How you did the monitoring?
So for monitoring, nothing much. So I have the Prometheus data things also. So that is sending the metrics from the Docker host. How much memory is available and CPU is available. By default, it's there. So the load generator monitoring, I can do it through the Prometheus thing.
So let me give my example, Naveen, what I faced. I think it would be is helpful here. So similar kind of situation. So we used to have a PCF environment, like a Pivotal Cloud Foundry in local. So proposal came to move the microservices to the Kubernetes. So one of the microservice, so I have done testing with the load runner in the Pivotal Cloud Foundry. There is no issue. But same microservice, I have to do it in Kubernetes. So problem I faced there was the PEM form, the PEM certificate, which they gave from microservice perspective, which was not working in Kubernetes. So in the Kubernetes, they apply the microservices. They gave me the PEM form file, which was not recognized by the server when I'm sending through the load runner script. So I ended up taking the key file and used in JSR 233 and made a JMeter script since it's a simple one microservice, right? So I executed that JMeter script into the through load runner. And the monitoring part, I monitored through AppDynamics in the Kubernetes.
Got it. Okay. Cool. So where the scripts will be stored in repository or local?
Which one?
The JMeter scripts.
JMeter scripts local only.
Local only. Okay.
No, we don't. Don't have that CI/CD processor or something. So
Elil, Sudhakar, so how the JMeter things you manage locally, or it will be in repository?
So I am managing in Bitbucket, but it's kind of a manual upload. At the end of the day, I just check in back into Bitbucket. That's it.
Okay. And test data and all, everything will be on one folder, right?
Yes, everything will be in one folder. Yeah.
One folder, okay. And multiple, somebody wants to work, they have to just check out and take the latest one, then they can work on.
Right.
Okay.
Elil, one question. What is the need to adopt Docker for load testing?
Not really. So they don't want to have the VMs always on. So the traditional thing is we have 5 VMs earlier. So they want to cut down the cost. So this is like whenever so right now I have 1 VM for scripting or all my local activities. Then whenever I want to run, I just run this, deploy this VMs automatically in Azure, and at the end of the test, that all the Docker containers will be destroyed. So it won't be always on, right? So that might have cost savings.
Oh, okay. We try to do the same exercise in my organization. What we observed was running JMeter process directly on a VM versus running them in Docker containers. Docker container was using a lot of memory, so we had to provision a bigger machine to run with containers. So we skipped that idea.
Okay.
Now we just break up the entire. So we have some 35 scripts. So we break up that into 7 JMX test suites. Run them parallelly, trigger them parallelly on the same machine. It still works. I mean, it'll be like 7 Java processes are running on the same machine, and the memory usage is very low as compared to if you're running on Docker.
So just adding, Brunal, for your question, right? Why we need Docker, right? So in my team, sometimes the development team, they want to execute some test. Okay. So what we done is just a simple URL testing. So we Dockerized the one JMeter script, very simple JMeter script, and we have parameterized everything in the properties file. And then we gave that image to them. So they can configure the properties and then they can run the test on their own. So that is one use case I can give you. Yeah.
When you say properties, it's the JMeter properties file.
JMeter properties, yeah, URL, number of threads they want to configure, think time.
Yeah.
So those things in properties and Dockerized image, and they just have to append that properties in a volume. That's it. They can run the test.
And that JMeter and that container comes up in their local, or you have provisioned it to run in some cloud.
No, local. Just a not high volume test. Just 100 threads, just to baseline some number.
Yeah.
Hey, Brunal, you were telling like it was utilizing more memory without using Docker. Would you explain a bit more why it's utilizing more memory? Like you are using bulk of 45 scripts, something, right?
Yeah, with Docker containers, the memory utilization was high because Docker itself needs some memory to run whatever is inside it, right? The container itself needs some memory. So that was an additional overhead for us.
Okay.
But can't you customize the memory units for the Docker, Mrinal? Okay.
See, so what we had to do was we had to run on one large machine. We picked a very large machine with 64 cores, 128 GB RAM. And on top of that, we wanted to bring up 5 containers and run 7 scripts in each container. So we did both. We did we brought up 5 containers, each having 7 scripts. And we directly ran those 5 scripts, each having 7 JMXs directly on the machine. So the second approach used lesser memory. So Docker itself needs some amount of memory for it to work properly.
Yes,
So
yes.
directly running the machine, so you think it won't consume much memory, right?
Yeah, I mean, compared to Docker, it's there was a huge difference for us to move to the second approach.
Got it.
It made a huge difference.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, guys, 90 minutes over. So let us conclude this. So anybody has any other tips to share to the community? Otherwise, we can wind up. So this session will be available in my YouTube channel, so you can check it out. So any last few words, anybody?
So is this a last session? Like I haven't seen your get published for. Is there any other session?
No session I am planning. Actually, I am waiting for the guest speakers to give their times. That is why I have not scheduled anything in GitHub repository. Yeah, I'm waiting for the approvals. Once they say yes, there will be session, of course.
Cool.
If somebody is not turning up, then we can talk about something else.
Yep.
Yes, generally, if you want to construct API scripts, so how you will do? You will manually doing. Now in Postman, we have option to directly record by using proxy. Everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can run a load test from Postman.
But mostly I'm doing it manually. Even the UI part also I'm doing it manually only. But just reading that F12 network or Fiddler, I'm just converting that into here.
No, actually now for Postman also we have direct recording option by using proxy. So just like our web browsers, we no need to construct manually for APIs. Just you can record just like web applications for APIs also in Postman. Just simply through configuring proxy and port, just like our web browsers, so that it will directly capture the API details in JMeter. So it will save our timings.
Okay, I have not tried that. Probably I can try today, Asbagar.
Yes. It will work, Naveen.
Okay, I can try and put something in video here.
Yes. It will save a lot of time actually.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll end up in how to correlate with Postman and JMeter also, but now that issue solved.
But there are a lot of converters I have seen, Postman to JMeter. I don't know whether you already know about this. So how different is that?
But this is quite easy.
Oh, okay. Probably, yeah, I have to explore that. Yeah, I will check it out. But there are plugins, online tools are available. Like if you go to loadster.com, LOADSTER, so they have a converter, a Postman to JMeter.
Okay.
Yeah. And in Neurode also, if you enter Swagger link, it will automatically it will automatically create everything for you. So just one click, that's it. So it will convert everything.
Okay, good.
But yeah, it will convert, but the rest of the things we have to take care. It is not fully automated. Rest of the things we have to add, extraction, we have to do it manually. So manual effort will always be there. So somehow it will save our time. So not 100%.
But recording will save our time.
Yeah, recording, yes.
For UI, right, if somebody is using Fiddler to generate your things, there's a way, there is some add-in called Mockingbird, so that it will convert as a JMX file.
Mockingbird. Okay. Breaking Bad. Okay, so not the Breaking Bad.
Yeah, right then, but there should be always a manual effort. Cleanup is required, but still we can try it out.
Okay, Mockingbird. Okay, I will check it out.
So when you convert this one, so which controller or sampler it will convert into?
It will be go to HTTP sampler. It won't have any
Yes, in
control.
basic. Yeah, that's what I was questioning. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, mostly HTTP, right? Everybody HTTP. So any website, what is that website name? A Mockingbird website, Elin?
Let me try right now.
I just Googled. I am getting some other lyrics or something else. Mockingbird converter.
Yeah.
It's going to Stack Overflow.
Yeah, somewhere in Telerik forums, it's there. How to?
Okay.
I'll send you the link in LinkedIn through LinkedIn message.
Sure.
I can
No
put
problem.
you there.
Probably you
Okay,
can
cool.
try in JDS Australia, Naveen, because they wrote this kind of stuff slot.
Okay. Yeah, I'll Google, yes.
Yeah, in GitHub, that's Hemant Sharma IO. That guy developed this.
GitHub, okay, GitHub. Okay, GitHub repository. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining today's session. So it will be available in YouTube, so please check it out. So next week I'll come up with some topic and then we can talk about that. So thanks everyone. Have a good night then. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.